Hello, this is Andy, and this is my dog Todd, and we are here with the Carb Watch here in the test kitchen here at Rogers Production Studios. Welcome to another episode at the Carb Watch, where if you're not watching your carbs are definitely watching you. And what I'm watching right now in front of me are 3 loaves of bread. Bread? What? Bread? I'm getting a note from production that bread's heavy in carbs. Well, yeah, bread has carbs in it. Bread, the envelope to your ham and cheese sandwich, the bread, the hug that you never got from your parents. Bread is everywhere. It's convenient. It's hard to eat ham and cheese without something to hold it in. And so we use bread quite frequently, and we always there's misnomers about bread because there's a lot of misinformation about bread. Big question is, should we eat it? You know, I'm going to leave that up to you. Bread is heavy in carbs, but not heavier than pastas. Whenever I think about losing weight, you think about cutting out carbs. Bread's an easier one to do, but sometimes people find it hard because it's inconvenience. So let's take a deeper look into what is actually in these breads, because I have a choice in breads that I think it's actually going to be a little bit different than carb counts. First bread on the left is sourdough bread. Sourdough bread has, for one slice, 12 grams of carbohydrates. That is going to be pretty consistent around the board, except for one slice of Dave's killer bread. Note on the killer, because killer, if you know what I mean. 22 grams of carbohydrates per slice. So we're almost doubling the amount of carbohydrates in Dave's killer bread, which has a very, very masculine man on the front with playing a banjo or a guitar with big muscles, leading you to think that this is going to be good for you. Yes, it has more protein than the sourdough bread. And it has a heck of a lot more carbs, a much heavier option with a lot more whole grains. So there's a lot of difference too. That's the last one. Let's go over this last one real quick. Then I'm going to talk to you about Dave's bread versus sourdough bread. This is zero net carb bread plain. I just took a bite of this. It says it loves the taste. I'm not sure I love the taste, but it's not exactly zero carbs. It's 7 grams of carbs per serving. So we're cutting down by 5 versus sourdough bread. This is a version of a wheat bread because it uses a wheat protein isolate and a vital wheat gluten. The thing I like about this, there's not much in it. So this is almost going to be like an airy placeholder for bread. So not bad as far as the carb counts. But what I think is important to know about bread is how it digests, because bread has to rise, right? We all rise. We wake up in the morning. And I was just looking up information on why people tout sourdough bread as the bread of choice. And that is because sourdough bread actually takes a lot longer to make, and it has a fermentation process that, if those of you who make bread at home will know this, it takes a lot longer to make authentic sourdough bread than it does other breads, because other breads use baker's yeast. They don't use natural microbes and a certain fermentation process with the sourdough that gives it that sour taste. There's even note two where you get the sourdough bread. You want sourdough bread that's authentically made and not added acidic flavors like lactic acid in order to make it taste sour. So what does this do? There is a lot of science that goes on beyond this, and you can look this up on your own. But the reason people will tout sourdough bread as a better bread is because that length of time it takes to ferment and process the bread for it to rise using natural ancient microbes is that it pre-digests the gluten. So everybody's big on gluten. Gluten is a part of this big family called wheat germ agglutinin. So gluten is kind of like the scapegoat for these big little these little proteins that go in and wreak havoc in your system, which can wreak havoc on a leaky gut. Sourdough, the thought process behind that is that our gut is not made to digest those well. We're not made to digest gluten and to use it efficiently. It just wreaks more havoc than it does good. Sourdough bread pre-digests the gluten. So with people with Crohn's disease, with IBS, actually fare better doing sourdough bread than they do others. So if I'm going to choose a bread, I'm going to choose sourdough, not only because I love the San Francisco treat and I love sourdough taste. Isn't that where I'm getting a note production? We'll do a fact check on that to make sure that sourdough is from San Francisco. I just always put those together. Okay, well, there you go. Sourdough bread is going to be the bread of choice that I choose. And if we're comparing, there's going to be, my rule of thumb in the head is always around 15 grams per slice. Is what I'm thinking when I'm counting for bread that I don't know where it comes from. If a slice of bread shows up on my plate, I think around 15. Dave's Killer Bread, though it's got this packed with protein, it has a ton of additives in it that I don't think we actually need. I'd rather get the protein with less carbs. I'd rather get the ALA omega-3 from fish and from fish oil than from my bread. Fiber is good, but also too, whole grains, whole wheats, I think it's wholly hard to digest. So think of this as not more carb conscious, but more gut conscious when you're thinking of bread. So between any type of bread that you're looking at, I would go with one without added sugars. An Ezekiel bread, an unleavened bread, and sourdough bread are going to be better options for you that are easier on your guts. This has been the Carb Watch. I hope that when we turn this camera back on, that all of this bread will be gone. Don't feed, and this is a PSA that has nothing to do with what I just talked about, but do not feed bread to birds. Okay, don't go outside and feed. Those ducks don't do. I think I heard one time that feeding bread to ducks causes their guts to explode. I could be wrong. We'll fact check that. But just be careful. Don't be that person that goes and takes this loaf of bread and think, oh, I'm not going to eat this anymore. The ducks will eat it. No, let ducks eat their own food. Okay, they don't need that bread from you. All right, let them be. This has been Andy with the Carb Watch. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in next time. We'll talk about the carbs that are definitely watching you. Please and thank you.